If you at any point in life have seen the dead carcass of anything from a bird to a squirrel to whatever kind of roadkill being carted off by little critters, maybe it's the buzzards, maybe it's the ants, maybe it's ants carrying off a dead worm. If you're around the lake, you see that quite a bit. People try to hook that worm on the hook for fishing and it doesn't work, so they just toss it aside, and the ants will not eat it where it's at, and most of the time they'll pick it up and kind of carry it off somewhere. But what really is horrifying is when you see not the ants going after the worm or the buzzards going after the roadkill rabbit or the armadillo. What's really kind of disconcerting is when you see that same kind of thing and the creatures that are carrying the dead carcass are actually carrying a dead carcass that looks just like them. It's when the ants are carrying a dead ant or the beetles are carrying a dead beetle, and you get a little concerned about it and you think to yourself, what exactly is going on here? Well, there's actually a term for that when one group eats its own, so to speak. And believe it or not, that's what I want to talk about today on Leading Leaders. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders podcast, and there have been many times throughout the course of my life that I've witnessed or been a part of what I only know today as a new word, fratricide. Fratricide is the new word that I learned today. I heard it from somebody else, and I thought, the description of the word and the word itself, they make really good sense together. Suicide would be when you take your own life. Homicide when you take someone else's life. Fratricide is when a group of people, generally siblings or those closely related, take another one out. And generally for the good of the group. In the reference, it was mentioned that a dog pack, a wolf pack, will eat the weaker of the bunch in order to preserve the strength of those who are carrying forward. And so the one that is the weakest in the crowd becomes not only a liability, but a burden. If they are weak and everybody else must take care of them, if they are weak and they are unproductive, if they are weak and they're not even carrying their own load, they're taking energy away from those who are carrying their own load, then they're not useful to the pack. They're dead weight, so to speak. And in the animal kingdom, fratricide is not an uncommon thing. It's a way of culling the herd, so to speak. You see a similar thing, though, in the world of predators and prey. Predators will try to separate the pack from the one who can't defend itself, can't run as fast, can't survive as long on its own. And once the predator has separated that one out, then they will attack that one while it's weak. Meaning, the purpose of the predator in causing division is no subtle matter. The predator wants to cause division so that the one weak one will be left behind. If they can cause a scattering, if they can cause everyone to run in fear, if they can cause all of the llama or all of the zebras to sprint away as fast as they can, it's at that moment that they find out which one is weak, which one is left behind, which one is slow, which one really should be culled from the herd or made breakfast, and sometimes that's the same answer. But see, we're not talking about prey and predators in the animal kingdom per se, but we are talking about prey and predators in the leader world. How often do you see, or maybe you've been the victim of, someone that you thought was in your organization or on your team as a great investment? Maybe you brought them in because they were a lifelong friend. You brought them on board and you said, this person's going to be in my corner forever. And then you turn around and realize they're not just in your corner, they're standing in your corner in the shadows with a knife in their hand, ready to drive it deep into your spine. Why? Well, because in the mindset of those who naturally tend toward fratricide, what you see is an unending level of competition. And this intrinsic belief in them of their own victimhood that says, if you succeed, I cannot. If you climb out of this barrel like a crab, I must pull you back down. Partially, people think it's because that success may cause you pain and I'm preventing you from the pain. But genuinely, most often, it's that If you succeed, I can't. If you win, I lose. So I can't let you win because it means I lose. Even if my life is better today than it was 5 years ago, even if my life is better today because of what you have invested in me and the opportunity that you have given me, even if that's true, I still find that if you win, I lose. If your life is better, mine is worse. If you get the new job promotion, I can't get the new job promotion. If you get the new car, well, obviously I'm not going to get the new car. You see how quickly that theory falls apart? And yet, we find on a regular basis that people become victims of their own team. They become victims sometimes of their own family. If you've lived in a family that is so negative in their nature that anyone who gets success, anyone who gets a new job offer, gets a college degree, buys a new car, everyone else is jealous of them. No one celebrates the new car. Yes, it came with car payments. No, I didn't just win it. Yes, I've had to save and scrimp and eat off the dollar menu for a year to be able to pay the down payment on it. I had to pull out all the stops to be able to do this. I'm not buying new shoes or new clothes for 5 years because I got to pay for this car. I'm making a lot of sacrifice because I want to drive a new car, but everybody else in the family is jealous that I have a new car. They all want to drive it. They all want to make fun of it. They all want to say I could have done better. They all want to say if they were buying a new car, why theirs would be better than mine. Fratricide. It's fratricide. Now, it's on a smaller scale, and it doesn't actually end in the death of someone, but it's the same kind of concept. I can't let you continue to do what you're doing because it makes me look like the weak one, and I won't have that. I can't let you succeed, buy the new car, buy the new house, build the new building, expand your business, hire new people, get that next degree. I can't let you do that without me feeling like less of a person, and so I'm going to do all I can to sabotage you. I'm going to do all I can to demean you. I'm going to do all I can to force that competition to the level that you destroy yourself. If you've ever been a victim of that, if you've ever been involved in that kind of haranguing of someone else who's become successful, then you as a leader ought to recognize it. And as a leader in your organization, you ought to be able to look at that kind of behavior and put a stamp on it. Set it aside, recognize who it is that's moving up and who it is that's trying to stop them. Because fratricide isn't always about the weak one. It's almost always about the one who stands out. The one who gets the most attention. The one who has the most potential. The one who is actually making progress sometimes is the one that everybody else wants to take out. I remember having a job that when I took the job, I was asked within an hour of being there, what did you score on the civil service exam? And when I gave them the number, it was the eye roll and they, of course, yeah, that's kind of what I was afraid of. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? The person said, look, you are so overqualified for this job. I'm not even sure why you're here. And I said, I just want a side hustle. I want that guaranteed income. And I like the fact that after a period of time, the job comes with a pension and a 401k. And why wouldn't I do it? I have the time to do it. It's not a hard job. And they said, yeah, see, that's part of the problem. You're already proving that you can do more work in 4 or 5 hours than we normally do in 9 hours. I said, okay, so we can all be more productive. The reply was no. What that's going to prove is that management should cut back on the number of people and cut back on our hours. And when you start impacting other people's paychecks, you're not going to be very popular around here. I said, well, why should I impact anybody else's paycheck? She said, because we all know it doesn't really take 9 hours to do this job, but we also know that's 1 hour of overtime every single day that we work. And by the end of the year, that's a whole lot of Christmas money. What you're doing is going to prove that the job can be done in less time and actually save the organization money, and that's going to cost us all money out of our pockets, and that's not going to make you very popular. I lasted about 2 weeks, and I couldn't stand any more of the charade. I couldn't stand any more of the let's just bilk the company for as long as we can. Now, here's the really sad part. It wasn't that I was weak. It wasn't that I was destructive. It wasn't that I was doing anything wrong, particularly to hurt anybody else on purpose. I was doing what I believed to be the right thing. Show up at work, you do your job the best you can, you clock out as soon as you can, you move on with your life. Not the way everybody there saw it. Now, if you've worked in an organization like that, on either side, either you're the person saying, I'm just going to ride the clock as long as I can. I'm going to clock in 15 minutes early. I'm going to wander around in the parking lot. Might go to the coffee shop and hang out for a few minutes. Then I'll come to my desk and actually start working. But then I'll need an actual coffee break when everybody else takes one so I can hang out with my friends. And then I'll do a little bit of work. And then I'll go to lunch, and I might stay a little extra long at lunch. Well, because I'm on salary, and it doesn't really matter anyway, right? Maybe at some point they'll need me to work at a little extra time. So I'm just kind of padding my time. If you've ever worked in that kind of environment, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And you also know that most of the people who get promoted in an environment like that are the people who know people who promote people. They're not the ones who work harder. They're not the ones who have a better education. They're not the ones that do their job better or perform better. They're usually the ones that are taking the break with the guy that does the promotions or the gal that makes the decision. And the kind of fratricide that we're talking about in leadership is the kind that says the squeaky wheel gets the grease. The nail that sticks up gets either pounded in or chopped off. If you're standing out, then you may be outstanding and you may just be standing out to get chopped off. In leadership, as leaders, our role should be to say, we want an even playing field for everybody to have an even opportunity, but we also want to recognize those who are working harder, going above and beyond, doing the extra work, getting the extra education or knowledge or wisdom to do their job better, investing more in themselves and the organization. If they've made the sacrifices to go get a new car, we shouldn't bemoan them or cut their hours because obviously they're making too much. No, we should support their willingness to make the sacrifices and do the next thing, because it means that kind of character is also being embedded in our workplace. I'm afraid to say, though, that across the board, whether you're talking about nonprofit organizations, religious organizations, educational organizations, political organizations, we're seeing exactly the opposite taking place. We're seeing kind of a lowering of the level of expectation, a minimizing of the effort by everybody. And the expectations are even being changed by society at large to say, well, we don't expect that much of this generation, or we don't expect that much of that kind of person. We don't expect that much of this kind of person given their background. And having said that, we've created our own form of fratricide. We've created a place where it's really uncommon to be an overachiever. It's really uncommon to work extra hard. It's really uncommon to have more than one job, to do more than one thing, to have more than one job title, so to speak. Obviously, if you work in a company, you have a job title in that company, but you might also have a side hustle. You might also run your own business on the side or do things on the weekend that are extra pay. And those are not always exactly the same kind of job that you have 9 to 5. That's becoming a less common thing these days. Why? Well, because young people today, many of them, don't have the same level of work ethic. They don't have the same kind of drive and passion to say, I'm going to pay all my bills and put a little extra in the bank. And if I have to work a little extra to have that extra to put in the bank, that's what I'm going to do. That extra effort is rare these days. And because it's rare, when people see it, they see it as the nail sticking up. It's either going to get pounded in or chopped off. That, I believe, is a flaw in our society. And it's a cultural shift that has taken place over the last maybe 2.5 generations, that work ethic is no longer greatly appreciated. That's a leadership failure. When work ethic isn't rewarded, it's not appreciated. And what's not appreciated doesn't get more done. If you appreciate work ethic, say so. You'll see more of it. If you appreciate someone who shows up early, does the work from the time they walk in the door till the time they walk out, and they sometimes leave earlier because they finished all the work, applaud that. The fratricide, though, the killing off of the weak ones, that inverted model that says we want to get rid of those who stand out for success and make the rest of us look bad, that's got to go. And it's up to the leader to recognize those things and applaud those who are raising the standards, not those who are lowering them. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.